Welcome to The Road to Wealth. This is the channel that guides you on the road to prosperity and wealth and money management and debt reduction. Come back every video to learn something new that will be helpful and useful in every financial decision that you make. We're about practical advice and suggestions, hacks, and guidelines and principles that will help anyone make good decisions in growing wealth, investing in debt reduction, and in money management. Stick around for this useful video that will give you some information you can put into practical use. Today we're going to try to cover some important information that will help you understand how to invest in the stock market and make other investments. In my last video, a commenter was nice enough to provide some feedback and say that my speech pace was too slow, and I agree. So let's speed things up today and make sure you get some information that you can put into practical use, whether you're investing in the stock market or into an exchange-traded fund or mutual fund or any other kind of investment. These are principles that are based on that old Chinese saying that if you give a man or a woman a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So, while we are in the midst of this pandemic and we are maybe adjusting our investment styles to accommodate this pandemic, the truth is that these are lessons that are in the terminology of people on this particular platform are evergreen. They are true principles that will last you a lifetime. So, while many channels you see on YouTube will give you specific investment recommendations and stocks you should be buying, you often see that also on many of the cable investment programs. That's fine. Sometimes those are good investments and sometimes they have their place. But here is the problem with that. Every single person, you, the person that lives next door to you, your relative who lives across the country, you all have different investment goals and different risk tolerances. You may be extremely adverse to taking risk. You may invite risk. You may not care at all about risk. No two people are the same. And that is the problem with taking advice on this platform or from cable shows or anywhere else. You cannot take a cookie cutter approach to investing. It should be very individual. It should be tailored to your needs, to your goals, to your time horizons, and more importantly, it should take into consideration what amount of risk you are comfortable with. Do you get uneasy and not able to sleep at night if you're taking on a risky investment that has a lot of volatility? Or maybe you just eat up those kind of things and that's the perfect approach for you. What is more important is to know, let's take the stock market for beginners. What's more important to know is how you decide what you want to invest in. Now, since we happen to be in this pandemic right now, let's use the pandemic and some of the changes to the new normal that we've seen and think about some of the investment opportunities that may be out there based on some of these changes. Now, of course, many millions of Americans have lost their jobs during this pandemic, and many, many millions more have had to adjust their work style to accommodate the circumstances. What that has meant for those who are able to, especially people who are in the high-tech professions, is that they are able to work from home very often. As long as they have a connection to the internet, they can do their jobs. So if they're in a customer service function, if they are a data analyst, if they are somebody who handles financial services, anything that can be done over the internet can conceivably be done by home office, and doesn't have to be done in an office. And one of the big monumental changes that we've seen during this pandemic is that a lot of companies have shifted to this new normal, this new mode of work from home. And many companies have discovered that it actually works very good. It's working out much better than they thought. It reduces their cost. If it's a company that has a lot of perks and benefits when you're in the office, of course, companies are reducing their cost for those things when people aren't using them. Employees are finding that they don't have to spend as much money on many of the things they did, clothing, hairstyling, maybe for women, makeup products and some other things. And so there are some cost savings on both ends for the employee and the employer. So what does this mean for the investor? Well, it means that when you have a new normal, you have new trends. You don't always just want to invest in something that's trendy that may go away in a year. And there are many examples starting from pet rocks on. But some of these trends seem to have legs now. Seems like some of the changes in the work environment is very satisfying to both employees and employers. Of course, employees don't have to battle traffic every day, as long as you don't have distractions in the home, or you can find a way to mitigate those distractions, you can work from home. So as an investor, what you may be looking at is, how do I capitalize on this new trend? We've seen one of the companies that was one of the obvious benefactors of this and got a lot of press, which was the company Zoom, because online or virtual meetings and conferences in video conferencing has taken on a whole new dimension, and it has blossomed to a degree that has never been compared before. At the same time, this has reduced business travel considerably. From what I've heard, anywhere from 70 to 90% or higher. And so people are not flying to meetings or those meetings with clients. They are handling these meetings online instead. So companies like Zoom, or like Microsoft, or other providers of video conferencing platforms that are very successful and very popular, appear, at least right now, to be good investments. And they may be into the future, because as some of these things are adopted, they are going to remain popular, and you are most likely going to see a rather seismic shift in how companies handle business from now on. And of course, that offers many other possibilities. So companies that help facilitate work in any other way, virtually or online, are going to also benefit by this shift in the way work is done every day. And that could include companies that offer file transfers online, ways to send documents online, and anything that will facilitate what would normally be handled in the office in person that needs to be handled over the internet. Of course, that means more storage, and that means more cloud capacity. And so companies that are in the business of the cloud or remote servers and other things also are going to benefit by these trends. So I would be looking at companies that are in those business sectors. Don't just get into just any one of them that looks good, but what you should do is take a look at their balance sheet, take a look at what stock analysts believe about the future movement of their stocks. If they are dividend paying stocks, look at what analysts are saying about what they anticipate in the coming years, and whether or not they see an increasing dividend, or they are projecting a new target level for the stock. And most importantly, if there's a consensus among those stock analysts. These things can lead you to some great stocks, not only today, but stocks that have potential for tomorrow, because you are capitalizing on what appears to be a very real trend in business. Now, there's a contrarian view to this as well, and that is that we have seen stocks in the travel and leisure business, and the stocks of cruise ships, and the stocks of airlines, and anyone that provides either transportation or the leisure industry, restaurants, wedding halls, and these other things have been most hard hit during this pandemic. So another thing you can look at from a contrarian standpoint is that the market, of course, is always been cyclical. As much as we've had valleys, we've had hilltops as well. It's often been said that it's not smart to invest in the mutual fund that performed best out of all mutual funds last year, because the chance that it will repeat and take that position again this year is very unlikely. So, considering the cyclical nature of the market, and whatever degree of optimism you have about a vaccine, and the chances of a vaccine being available and hopefully putting an end to this pandemic, we can assume, of course we don't have a crystal ball so we can't say for sure, but we can assume that with the cyclical nature of the market, that some of these greatly depressed stocks right now may just be in a valley, and that as long as their balance sheet looks pretty good and they can withstand a prolonged downturn in the stock and the company's business, that there's a good chance that there will be some survivors that come out of this well, maybe a year from now, and they may be going great guns again. So this is another way to look at investments. So you either look at a trend that looks like it has a pretty high degree of certainty, that may expose new sectors of the market to great performance and great potential, as well as looking at the cyclical nature of the market, and looking at depressed stocks, assuming that they may be able to emerge from the valley that they're in. Now, those are two ways of looking at stocks right now. You can look at ETFs, exchange traded funds, and mutual funds in much the same way. There are ETFs and mutual funds that are sector funds that invest in technology, for instance. And if you feel that technology is definitely the strong sector going forward, especially with what happens as a result of this pandemic. Then you can look at the holdings in those funds, look at the top holdings and where the money is allocated and the investments, and if they are in companies that you think have a high degree of certainty of benefiting by this new normal, then those mutual funds or ETFs may be a good place to be. I know I have one technology-focused ETF that I use that has done very well, has been impacted by the volatility we've had in recent months, but that is probably very well placed going forward. And so that is a sector that is probably one you should consider and take a strong look at. Now, one of the other investment decisions that should guide you is your own personal experience. What are products or services that you use? And beyond that, what are products and services that you've been very happy with and that you have told friends and family about? If you are very happy with those products and services, it stands to reason that the company is doing something right. And if it is a public company, that may be a company stock that you want to invest in. Again, I would take your interest in the product or service and then investigate the company's fundamentals, check their balance sheet. Do they look like they have money in the bank? Is the book value of the company nearer or higher than the current stock price? Are the valuations good? In other words, has the stock price of that company been run way up and it's trading at a higher multiple than the market itself? And how has its management team managed the company and made good choices about investments? Again, you would also begin looking at analysts, what stock analysts believe about that particular stock and company going forward, and then hopefully find a consensus among those people that is positive. But you can never really go wrong if you invest in a company whose product or service you already believe in and that you're happy with. That's a great starting point, and it's always a perfect method for making investment decisions. As long as the company is solid in every other regard, if they have a market-leading product or service, and they have a product or service that you enjoy and that you like and that you believe in, then hey, there you go. That's a stock to get into, ETF. And also keep in mind that the yields on some fixed products like treasuries is so low right now that it is continuing to drive money into the equities markets. And that is why, despite all the turmoil in the economy, the equities markets, the stock markets have remained buoyant and have performed well. And of course, there are certain sectors, as I mentioned, that have just excelled in this pandemic. So to recap, buy stocks that are producers of products or services that you like. Watch trends, think about what's going on currently and who would benefit, and then look at those stocks and look at how well managed those companies are. and direct your money in that direction. Same with mutual funds, same with ETFs, and you just can't go wrong when you take that kind of educated, learned, and smart approach. Continue watching this channel if you will, and we will go into more depth on more specific financial topics related to wealth creation, debt reduction, and money management, and all things that will put you on the road to wealth. Thank you for watching. Take care.